If a human has a child, it's a human. If God has a child, it's a...
Creflo Dollar called. He wants his heresy back.
Everything produces after its own kind. We now see God producing man. And if God now produces man, and everything produces after its own kind, if horses get together, they produce what? And if dogs get together, they produce what? If cats get together, they produce what? But if the Godhead gets together and say, let us make man, then what are they producing? They're producing God.
But Otha is going further in his heresy here. He's not saying that he is a little God, but rather that he is equal to God, in the same way that Jesus is equal to the Father, which is like the little God's heresy on steroids.
But yet religious people, they don't like that. They don't like that. And it's the same spirit, because they tried to kill Jesus over that. Jesus said, I and the Father are one. They pick up stones to kill him. And he said, wait a minute, before you kill me, I love the way Jesus was. He said, before you kill me, he said, for which one of these wonderful works are you getting ready to kill me? They said, oh, no, we're not killing you for all of your wonderful works. We're killing you because you said God is your Father, which makes you equal to him. That's why we're killing you.
When the Bible says that God created man in his image, that means that as human beings, you and I are the pinnacle of God's creation. And we have the potential and the capacity through a saving relationship with Jesus Christ to know God. But the Bible is very clear. There is only one God, and he is a jealous God who will not share his glory with another. And if I remember my Bible correctly, wasn't the desire to be just like God kind of what led to the whole fall thing in the first place? The very first temptation that led to the very first sin is at the core of the word of faith.
They recognize that if you say that God is your Father, it means you're the same as him. And religion doesn't like that. But this ain't religion. Sons of God. That all by itself, the fact that I am the Son of God.
What does it mean that Jesus is God's only begotten Son? The phrase only begotten Son occurs in John 3:16, which reads in the King James Version as, For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. The phrase only begotten translates the Greek word monogenes. This word is variously translated into English as only, one and only begotten. It's this last phrase, only begotten, used in the KJV, NASB, and the NKJV that causes problems. False teachers have latched onto this phrase to try to prove their false teaching that Jesus Christ isn't God. For example, that Jesus isn't equal in essence to God as the second person of the Trinity. They see the word begotten and say that Jesus is a created being because only someone who had a beginning in time can be begotten. What this fails to note is that begotten is an English translation of a Greek word. As such, we have to look at the original meaning of the Greek word, not transfer English meanings into the text. So what does monogenes mean? According to the Greek-English lexicon of the New Testament and other early Christian literature, monogenes has two primary definitions. The first definition is pertaining to being the only one of its kind within a specific relationship. This is its meaning in Hebrews 11:17, when the writer refers to Isaac as Abraham's only begotten son. Abraham had more than one son, but Isaac was the only son he had had by Sarah and the only son of the covenant. Therefore, it is the uniqueness of Isaac among the other sons that allows for the use of monogenes in that context. The second definition is pertaining to being the only one of its kind or class, unique in kind. This is the meaning that is implied in John 3:16. John was primarily concerned with demonstrating that Jesus is the Son of God, and he uses monogenes to highlight Jesus as uniquely God's Son, sharing the same divine nature as God, as opposed to believers who are God's sons and daughters by adoption. Jesus is God's one and only Son. The bottom line is that terms such as Father and Son, descriptive of God and Jesus, are human terms that help us understand the relationship between the different persons of the Trinity. If you can understand the relationship between a human father and a human son, then you can understand, in part, the relationship between the first and second persons of the Trinity. The analogy breaks down if you try to take it too far and teach that Jesus was literally begotten, as in produced or created by God the Father.
I have his DNA running through my spiritual veins. That's the reason. Why do you think that when you became a Christian, the Bible says that does not the Bible say Jesus is your brother? Why? Because he is a son of God. He's just like the Father. When you become a Christian, you're made a son of God. You're just like the Father. So now you're also Jesus' brother. That's why it says he's the firstborn of many brethren.
For it was fitting that he, this is God the Father, for whom and by whom all things exist, in bringing many sons to glory, should make the founder. So it was fitting that he should make the founder, that's Jesus, it's fitting that he should make the founder of their salvation perfect through suffering. So God thought it fitting, suitable, appropriate, beautiful to complete, to make perfect the beauty of Christ through suffering. And here comes the ground. Because, verse 11, because he who sanctifies, we know that's Jesus because of the way chapter 13, 12 refers to the he who sanctifies. For Jesus, he who sanctifies, and those who are sanctified, his emerging sons of God and brothers, are all of one. That's difficult to know what that refers to, but could be all of one Father or all of one human nature, all of one. That is why he is not ashamed to call them brothers. So he's not ashamed to call us brothers, because in bringing us to sanctification through Jesus, death for us, which was fitting in bringing many sons to glory, therefore he's not ashamed to call us brothers. So the writer is giving a reason for why it was fitting that Christ lead many sons to glory through sufferings. And one great aim of God in salvation is that he have a great unified family of children, with Jesus Christ being both essentially different from and yet deeply united to his other human brothers and sisters, both really different and really like. But if all the brothers and sisters in the family have experienced suffering except one, then the unity is jeopardized. And so for the sake of a common spirit of unity and sympathy and camaraderie, even in suffering, Christ takes on human nature and he leads many sons to glory and into his brotherhood through suffering and death. In other words, the reason it's fitting for Christ to suffer to lead many sons to glory and many brothers into brotherhood to glory is that this suffering expresses his being a good, beautiful comrade brother. All of this hangs on God's aim to create a family that's so unified and so deeply interwoven and empathetic that the family would be jeopardized, would be undermined, if the perfect oldest brother does not go through all the pain of the rest of the children. So to answer Travis's question, what adds weight and wonder and affection to our worship of Christ is that it's the combination of the exalted uniqueness of Jesus as the Son of God, on the one hand, and his utter condescension to share our nature as humans and our suffering as fallen, mortal, all so that he could be included and we could be included in the divine family with Christ as the ever exalted and superior, unique, divine, older brother.
It's just common sense. But common sense doesn't make sense to religious people.